Hi everyone, I am Mei from the Japanese consulate in Detroit. I hope you are enjoying Saginaw Japan Week. In collaboration with the Japanese Cultural Center in Saginaw, we are excited to present a conversation between Mrs. Randi Kawakita and Mrs. Yoko Mossner as part of our series highlighting Japan's sister cities in Michigan and Ohio. Yoko-san is the former executive director of the Japanese Cultural Center, Tea House, and Gardens in Saginaw, and helped establish the sister city relationship between Saginaw and Tokushima. Randi-san, a Michigan resident and former teacher, spoke with Yoko-san about her involvement in Saginaw and Tokushima's relationship and about her incredible contributions to U.S.-Japan relations. Thank you to Randi-san and Yoko-san for their time, and I hope you enjoy their special conversation.
Welcome to a conversation with Yoko Mossner, Goodwill Ambassador. My name is Randi Kawakita, and I have the good fortune to interview Yoko-san today. I am a resident of Midland, Michigan, a retired educator, and active volunteer in my community. My connection to Japan began many, many years ago as a college exchange student where I attended the International Division of Waseda University, staying with the host family. Since then, I have been a lifelong learner trying to master the Japanese language. Never again, that's impossible. Learn the culture, and of course, I have a passion for modern history. I am honored and thrilled for this opportunity to speak with Yoko-san at length. Without further ado, let's begin. Yoko-san, welcome, and thank you so much for taking your valuable time to share with us your experiences and wisdom. It's so good to see you.
Thank you. Thank you for your kind words, and you're always being so nice. Thank you.
No, I only speak the truth. Well, to begin, you are well known and appreciated for being the perfect conduit for the United States and Japan in our region. And if I remember correctly, it started not too long after you and your handsome husband, Eugene, moved to Saginaw. I believe it was 1957. How did you get involved with the new sister city relationship between Saginaw and Tokushima?
Well, that was, my husband was a lawyer, and some lawyers' wives were very kind to me. And they also was in a group to have interest in starting the sister city. And I think when they found out that they're going to have the first visitor from their Japanese sister city, they start looking for somebody who understands the language. And this lady said, "Oh, I know, my husband's friend has a Japanese wife." And that was me. So they, they got me involved that way. And then I've been helping. Well, I wanted to do anything if I could be any help. And the Sister Cities idea was just perfect for my home country and my new home country to be friendly. And so I was happy to help as much as I could. I believe I was pregnant for my third child that time. I had two babies yet already, but I did what I could, and I've been doing it since, because that's what I wanted to do.
And how lucky for the community here and in Tokushima that you really, even though you were very busy, we say in the weeds raising children, you were more than happy to assume this role. And we're very fortunate before that. But it didn't. Your relationship with the two nations even expanded because there was a project between the two cities in the early 60s, and that was to develop a Japanese garden. And I think the city of Saginaw stepped in, and it was quite a project. It took 5 years, but not all in the construction. There was more to it. Please share your experiences with this first project.
I I think if I remember that it took quite a few years to raise the fund. It was not too much compared to the tea house, but we needed the money to make the garden. But at that time, in later 60, in Saginaw, the interest to about Japan is not overwhelming, you know. So the fundraising was not going too fast. But finally, we had some fund, and the Tokushima couldn't wait, I guess, and so they sent they sent Mr. Suzue to help us. So here in Saginaw, Mr. Heinemann, the contractor, said, "I will take the responsibility to start the garden," and that's how it started. And I remember that many volunteers had worked. Not, excuse me, not the skillful part, but the building the fence or carrying the stone, rocks, and things like that. We had a lot of volunteers to help. And then finally, it finished in 1971. It was a big celebration. But Mr. Suzue from our sister city, with him, our sister city sent the beautiful stone lantern and blue stone. That it's a beautiful blue sheen rocks that only produced in our sister city area. And so that added some flavor in our Japanese garden.
Wow, it is so exciting to hear back in the day that an authentic Japanese garden, and then, but it didn't stop there with the dedication in 1971, because soon around that same time, a more ambitious plan emerged. It was planned, decided, proposed that there would be a joint project between the two cities to build an authentic Japanese tea house.
That's right.
And I would think it's going to start with fundraising, and then that joint building construction with construction workers from Saginaw and the very specialized carpenters, as well as the architect. Oh, these are exciting memories, I'm sure. I can't wait to hear your response.
Thank you. I have to add about the garden. Originally, this Japanese garden's idea came, and landscape was done by our local landscaper. Lori Barber was the lady who did that. And then Mr. Suzue came. So that's from the beginning, we had a joint project, and so we are very proud of the Japanese garden. And then some people got the idea right away. We need the tea house. You told us about the tea house, but that's how long ago it already started the idea of the tea house. It took a while to realize it.
What memories do you have of this is of the architect, Mr. Tsutomu Takenaka? How involved? Okay, what was the name again?
Takenaka-san came to Saginaw in 1981. And he checked the site and he said, oh, this is a beautiful place with the Lake Linton and everything. It's going to be perfect, And he tried to take some soil with him. I don't think he could get through. I don't think he could get through the customs, but he tried anyway. And he went back to Japan. See, he's originally from Kyoto. There's the Kyoto is where the tea ceremony masters are. So he went back and then he designed the tea house. And then he brought back the blueprint. Blueprints was beautiful blueprints. And then he got together with the contractor that Saginaw chose. And then they started looking at the blueprints and who can do what. So they tried to divide the work and which part that our carpenter can do and which part Japanese have to do. So that's it started. Our contractor, I think there was R.C. Hendrick's company, had a groundbreaking. And of course, it took us from, again, the fundraising was the hardest part. That was we started the fundraising in 1982, but at that time was not a very good time because the Japanese cars were coming into Saginaw. It's a GM town, and but we talked to so many people. Fundraising was done with, I don't know if you remember, the Saginaw's mayor, Stearns, and his widow, Henrietta, was in People to People Sister City Committee. And so Henrietta and myself became the fundraising chairman, and we worked together. What she could do, she did, and what she couldn't, I did. And it worked out just fine. And then finally we had enough money raised in end of 1984. So 1985, in April, we had groundbreaking. It was wonderful. And the thing is, well, I don't know if that was in your question or not, but the Saginaw presented the piece of land to Tokushima. So the tea house is set on both land, Saginaw and Tokushima. And that was very unique. And so we had a really hard time, worked very hard, and we did more than 100 presentation and try to
Oh,
let people know what the tea house is. Some people think, well, why do you want a tea house here for? There's a restaurant, they thought. So it's a restaurant. And so we have to educate everybody. And finally, the state of Michigan was doing very well, fortunately, and had some extra money, surplus, and they were giving it to all the city. And they gave Saginaw $300,000. And so, well, we lobbied that to the Senate and the representative. And after the money came to Saginaw, then I had to lobby to the city council to allocate some of the money to the tea house. So we had $100,000 from the city for that fund, because that fund was supposed to be culture and education. And the tea house fund was just a one-time thing, So I think there was only one no vote, and the rest of the council members agreed to fund the tea house. And so that started when you have a project and try to raise the fund, when they see that that project is not going to go, nobody will give you any money. But when they think maybe that project will go, then they will come. So the local foundation and other business, they started giving us some money. So that's how we had enough raised to $250,000 at that time, because the estimate was almost 500, and Tokushima offered to pay the half of that price. So they donated 250,000, and we matched it here in Saginaw. And so all those things, that groundbreaking was a real celebration.
absolutely. And dedication. I think your skill set, your charm, your perseverance, and always partnering with people in the community created such a successful result, and we're all the better for that. Thank you so much. And then along that way, in your presentations, I'm sure you were able to share what's unique about a Japanese tea house. I mean, even with the construction materials, the specialized carpenters who came from Japan, I believe 3 of them, again, I hope
Yes,
my
3 of them,
translation.
skier dike. We call them skier dike, and they're specialized in building the tea house and temples in Japan. That is, the technique is that they do not use the nails. They would just have the joinery and put woodwork together that way. So outside of the building was done by our carpenters. That was normal, like they used the nails and everything, but when the shell of the house was done, we had 3 special carpenters from Kyoto. stayed here for about a month and worked. So everything you see this inside of this tea house is very authentic. Everything was done by a Japanese special carpenters. So that's
And
how.
it is a beautiful, just beautiful. So the wood, you have the posts, the beams, either the cedar beams or the cypress beams, and it's just like stepping into Japan. So it's just fantastic. Thank
Yes,
you.
the ceiling is woven cedar, and it's a hand woven ceiling. It's beautiful. Yes.
Beautiful. In the same way, visitors can come and enjoy just the ambiance and the authenticity of the structure. But then there's the bonus category. They can partake in an authentic official tea ceremony. And the tea
Yes.
ceremony has been called the epitome of Japanese culture, combining so many art forms, Japanese art forms, in this one tradition that extends back for hundreds of years. And that uniqueness and the experience, as well as partaking with the specialized tea and the Japanese sweets. Um, when newcomers come, newcomers who probably or maybe don't know that much about Japanese culture, what are the takeaways you want them to have experiencing the tea ceremony?
Well, they they could really actually experience the Japanese culture that way, not from the book, not from the movie, just they can participate. And Mr. Takenaka, Tsutomu Takenaka, had that in his mind when he designed this tea house. So it is larger than a normal tea house you see in Japan. We have, for instance, we have this tatami room. We have 8 tatami mats. And normally the tea house that you will see in Japan is 3 or 4 tatami mats, a little tiny and very intimate tea ceremony. There were 2 or 3 people, but that's it's privileged. Guests would appreciate that. And we have this relay room that would consume about 30 people, and the Japanese room, we could sit about 10 people most, and so they could experience the over 400 years history carrying this tea ceremony culture, and we have Grand Tea Master in Kyoto. This tea ceremony, Urasenke tea ceremony, began in 1500, and the man's name was Senrikyu, and he's the first Grand Tea Master, and we have 17th direct descendant of the Grand Tea Master in Kyoto, and so that's a monarchy, and it's carrying the history and culture. And tea ceremony is not just making the tea. That involves the flower arrangement and calligraphy for the scrolls, and even a Japanese poem, because every time you open the tea ceremony, they will have a theme, and that goes in every season or occasion, So you could learn most of the Japanese culture put all together and tea. And this, the Grand Tea Master, he's retired now, but he was involved in World War II. And he was a very young man, and he was one of the kamikaze pilot. And so when war was over, he was put in Grand Tea Master's place in Kyoto. And his mother said, now get up and go, because he was very, he was feeling very low because he was the only few that survived, and all his friends were gone. And so he started being a Grand Tea Master, and his wish was to bring the peace in the world. So.
Thank you for sharing that piece again. Sister Cities was founded to bring peace, having communities across different boundaries, and just to preserve, create and maintain peace. It's a thread, I think, through today's conversation. The tea ceremony is so exquisite and so tranquil. And I'm going to make a little bit of a turn here, because one of my husband and both of us, one of our favorite events held annually at the tea house, the Japanese Gardens, the cultural center, is the annual fall Japanese festival. And I just want to put on my dancing, and dance with the folk dancers that come from, not Tokushima, some of them do, if they're students in the region, but it's just, what a magnificent event that people from all over come to. And it's hard to find a parking place, even though there's plenty of parking thanks to the Saginaw Children's Zoo. But so popular, so lively, energetic, but people can also experience the tea ceremony at that time. Talk about the development of that. That's just such a wonderful event.
Thank you. We did have a small Japanese festival before that too, but actually started in 2007 when Consul General Shinotsuka visited here from Detroit, Consul General's office, and he was very impressed with this Japanese garden and the tea house. And he said, Yoko, you have such a beautiful place. Why don't you have a festival? Get more people to come and see things here. And he said, I'll help you. And so he helped us. And I thought, well, it's a good idea, so we'll do that. So I did what I can here, and I got the stage and then tent and then the performers. And that area, that Consul General's office helped me. And so that's how it started in 2007. And what Consul General Shinotsuka did, he says, I have a very good chef. I'll bring him here and he could make the tempura. That's a fried shrimp, That was very popular. And so, but poor staff, they had to carry all the things and have to sit up. Well, anyway, it was wonderful. And I think at that time, we did not have any taiko group in Michigan. So we had Tsukasa Daiko from Chicago. So they came from Chicago, and I had a hotel for them in the Ramada in the Davenport, and they stayed overnight and then performed taiko, and that was very popular, and then some of the people who are in Detroit from Japan, and they were talented. So the ladies did the dancing, and the ladies did koto, harp players, and so we put all of those together, and the fundraising, I did it. I had to, I had to raise the money for the expenses too, but I made it, and good.
I think, Yoko-san, you should write a book on how to successfully fundraise for nonprofits and organizations.
No.
I think part of it is your charming personality. And as I've mentioned before, I think you have a way of where people might say no to someone else, but it's hard to say no to Yoko Mossner. And I mean that as a supreme compliment. And I can only imagine the challenge of fundraising. So again, the community in Tokushima benefits. Both communities benefit from your hard and diligent work. I'm going to bring up something that I hope I don't, you're a very humble person. And, but there was a ceremony in 2016 where you received the prestigious award, Order of the Rising Sun, Silver Rays, conferred by the Emperor of Japan, and was presented to you by the Consul General, this time Mitsuro Wada, at a ceremony in Detroit in his residence. And it was in honor, recognizing you for your tireless contribution to the friendship and goodwill between the United States and Japan. What now? So deserved. So, I mean, a perfect recognition, but such an award, so prestigious and perfect. Just, amen. Yes, bravo. What were your feelings? How soon did you? I'm sure it wasn't a surprise. I'm sure.
Yes, really, yes, it was.
You went there? You went there and didn't know you were receiving this?
No, well, that way I was not. But when the Mr. Noda from the Consul General's office told me that I am going to be the recipient, I said, recipient of what? And the first thought was, oh no, I can't take that, But she said, oh, you don't have to do anything. I will do everything. So I just have to give them a lot of information. They did some checking in Japan too, I think. And they said, well, we are going to, if you go to Japan, you can audience with the emperor. But I said, no, I don't think so. We were old, and my husband, spouse is allowed, but only spouse could accompany to the imperial palace. So, but my husband had, he has a knee replacement also, and it was, so anyway, I said, no, I will receive it here. And with my family, because I cannot take all my family and friends from Saginaw area to Japan. So I said, I would like to share that honor with my children and my friends. Oh, that friends in Saginaw and
Oh,
like
wonderful.
you and Saginaw area was so precious to me, you know. So uh, we did that. That was such a great honor. I still think
Oh, well,
you know,
no, well, that's right. I have a quote that I believe you expressed uh, at the time of the ceremony, and it just is the essence of your wonderful heart, how you know your humility, and so it's a translation, but I think it captures another you know so much you, and it's quote. This is what you said, only in English. I love Japan, where I was born, and America is my adopted country. I feel that what I have done for both my nations is nothing special, but it has been done out of love. I have goosebumps just reading that because I just think it just is your who you are, what you have done, working with others, going against the hardships and the challenges of fundraising, and always trying to create a good and long lasting relationship between the two cultures, countries, the two cities, and how changing attitudes in difficult times and doing the hard work of peace. You make it look effortless because of your grace and poise. But we, the community, say thank you so much. And thank you for sharing your memories, all of your stories, and for making this cultural center such a special place in our region. Any last words you want to leave with us?
I I just wanted to thank you so much. And friend like you really make me love this country too. It
Thank you, Yoko.
make me feel worth it.
Well, you're very, very special. Thank you. Thank you. And we thank the listeners as well.